The bank letter sat on Tom Walker's kitchen table like a coiled snake. $48,000 due in 90 days, or they'd take the farm. Tom stared at the number until his coffee went cold. This is a work of fiction set during the 1980s farm crisis through the early 2000s. While characters and events are created for storytelling, they reflect documented farming experiences and historical economic conditions of that era. Tom ran 320 acres of corn and soybeans outside Dixon, Illinois. His father had bought the land in 1952 for $800 an acre. Now in March 1984, land prices were dropping like stones in a well. Interest rates sat at 13%. Corn brought $2.40 a bushel when it cost $3.10 to grow. He'd thought the debt would work itself out. It hadn't. His wife Sarah walked in from the barn, her boots caked with mud. "Kids are on the bus." Tom slid the letter across the table. Sarah read it twice. Her face went pale. 90 days. That's what it says. She sat down hard. They'd been married 16 years. She'd never asked him to quit farming. But he saw the question in her eyes now. Tom stood and grabbed his coat. "I'm checking the south field." He drove his 1976 Ford pickup down the gravel road, not really seeing the land. The Deere 4440 tractor sat in the machine shed, bought new in 1981 for $42,000, worth maybe $25,000 now. His combine, a 1979 John Deere 6600, might bring $15,000 if he could find a buyer. The math didn't work. Selling equipment meant he couldn't farm. Not farming meant losing everything anyway. At the fence line, he noticed fresh tire tracks. Someone had been cutting through his property. Tom followed the tracks to a small clearing near Elkhorn Creek. Empty beer cans littered the ground. Tire ruts tore up the grass. He picked up a can. Kids, probably, using his land as a party spot. Then he noticed something else. Shell casings. Lots of them. Someone had been target shooting here. An idea formed. Strange and small, but an idea. That evening Tom made calls. The county clerk, the sheriff's office, a lawyer in town named Pete Morris. By midnight, he had his answer. He could legally charge people to use his land for recreation. The liability was manageable with proper waivers. "You want to do what?" Sarah asked when he explained. "Let hunters pay to use the back 40. Nobody farms it anyway. Too wet." "How much would people pay?" "Pete says other farms charge $25 to $50 a day during deer season." Sarah did the math in her head. Deer season runs 16 days. Even if you got 2 hunters every day at $25, that's only $800. "It's $800 we don't have." She nodded slowly. "What do you need?" Tom spent April building. He borrowed a post hole digger from his neighbor Jim Patterson and set fence posts along the back property. He cleared shooting lanes. He built a small equipment shed from scrap lumber and turned it into a check-in station. The work felt good. He was doing something instead of just worrying. He placed a small ad in the Rockford newspaper. "Deer hunting on private land. Safe, managed property. $30 per day. Call evenings." The phone didn't ring. May passed. June arrived. Corn went into the ground late because an old bearing failed on the planter. Tom fixed it himself, lying in the dirt for 3 hours with a wrench and a prayer. July brought drought. The corn grew to knee-high and stopped. Tom watched the sky for clouds that never came. In August, the first call came. "This the hunting place?" The voice was gruff. "Yes, sir." "You got any openings for November?" Tom hadn't even made a reservation system. "Let me check my book." He grabbed Sarah's grocery notepad. "November looks good. What dates?" The man booked 3 days, paid a $50 deposit by mail. Tom stared at the check for a long time. It was real money, small, but real. 2 more calls came in September, then 5 in October. By the time deer season opened in November 1984, Tom had 14 reservations. Most were single-day hunters. A few booked multiple days. Opening morning, Tom met his first customer at 5 a.m. Guy named Robert Chen drove down from Milwaukee in a Chevy Blazer. "You provide stands?" Chen asked. Tom hadn't thought of that. No. Most guys bring their own." Chen looked disappointed, but paid his $30 and headed out. That first season brought in $940. Tom deposited every penny in the farm account. The bank payment came due in December. Tom sold his oldest tractor, a 1965 Deere, for $4,000. He borrowed $3,000 from Sarah's brother. The rest came from the farm account, scraped together from every source he could find. The payment was 2 days late, but it cleared. Tom sat at the kitchen table that night, hands shaking from relief. Sarah poured him whiskey neither of them could afford. "We made it," she said. "For now." 1985 brought more of the same. Corn prices stayed terrible. The hunting business grew to 28 customers and brought in $1,100. Tom built 2 permanent tree stands and a small warming shed. Hunters started leaving positive notes in his logbook. But the farm kept bleeding. Every month was a juggling act. Rob Peter to pay Paul, delay the seed dealer, promise the fertilizer company, hope the crop came in. In March 1986, Tom's father died. Heart attack in the barn, quick and final. The funeral filled the Lutheran church. Afterward, Tom's mother pulled him aside. "Your father was proud of you," she said. Tom couldn't speak. Proud of what? Losing the farm inch by inch? His mother squeezed his hand. "He told me about your hunting business. Said you were thinking like a farmer should, using what you have." That fall, disaster hit. October rains turned the fields to mud. Tom got the combine stuck twice. By the time he finished harvest, half the corn was damaged. The elevator docked him 40 cents a bushel for moisture content. But the hunting season was the best yet. 53 customers over 16 days. The word had spread. Tom's land had good deer. The property was well managed. Hunters felt safe. The business brought in nearly $2,000. Sarah ran the numbers one night in December. "The hunting money paid for diesel fuel this year. All of it." Tom looked up from the farm journal. "You're kidding." "I'm not. Every gallon." That's what the hunting covered. It was a strange feeling. This little side business, this thing he'd started out of desperation, was holding pieces together. 1987. 1988. The years rolled past like fence posts on a highway. The farm crisis deepened across the Midwest. Tom's neighbor Jim Patterson sold out in 1988, moved to Arizona. Another family farm gone. But Tom held on. The hunting business grew every year. He added turkey hunting in spring,
started charging $40 per day, built a small bunkhouse for hunters who wanted to stay overnight. That added $20 per night. By 1990, the hunting operation brought in $6,000 annually. It still wasn't enough to save the farm alone, but it plugged holes. It covered the unexpected breakdowns, the vet bill when Sarah's horse colicked, the property tax when corn prices dropped below $2. Tom turned 50 in 1991. His knees hurt from years of climbing in and out of tractors. His back ached every morning, but the farm was still his. Then Sarah got sick. It started as tiredness, then weight loss. By the time the doctor diagnosed the cancer, it had spread. The treatments cost everything the insurance didn't cover. Tom sold his good combine and bought an older model. He cut back on fertilizer. He stopped maintaining equipment that didn't absolutely need fixing. Sarah fought for 18 months. She died in April 1993, 3 weeks after her 47th birthday. Tom buried her next to his father. He stood at the grave until the workers finished filling in the dirt. Then he drove home and sat in the empty house until dark. The next morning, he got up and fed the cattle. Because that's what you did. The work didn't stop for grief. His daughter Jenny came home from college to help that summer. She was studying agriculture business at Illinois State. She walked the property with Tom one evening in June.
"Dad, you could expand the hunting business." "How?" "Fishing. You've got Elkhorn Creek running through the property. Stock it with trout, charge people to fish." Tom had never considered it. "That would cost money I don't have." "The DNR has grant programs. I researched it for a class." They applied in July. The state approved a $3,000 grant in September. Tom used it to improve creek habitat and stock rainbow trout. He added fishing to his advertising. The first fishing season in 1994 brought 15 customers. Not many, but it was spring income. Something to fill the gap between turkey hunting and preparing fields. Years passed. Tom's hair went grey. His hands grew stiff with arthritis. The farm stayed alive through a combination of stubborn will and nickels scraped together from everywhere. The hunting business became known throughout Illinois and Wisconsin. Tom hired a local kid named Danny Martinez to help during busy seasons. Danny was 17, strong, and needed work. His father had lost their farm in 1989. "You ever think about quitting?" Danny asked one November morning in 1998. They were repairing a fence post together. Tom hammered while Danny held the post steady. "Every day," Tom said. "But you don't." "No." "Why not?" Tom thought about it. "Because this is mine. My father's. My grandfather's. Quitting means it was all for nothing." Danny nodded. He understood. His family had quit. The weight of it showed in his eyes. In 1999, Tom's equipment finally gave out completely. The old Deere 4440 threw a rod in June. The repair would cost $8,000. Tom didn't have $8,000. He didn't have $3,000. He sat in the machine shed, looking at the broken tractor. 40 years of farming came down to this moment. A broken engine and empty pockets. Then his phone rang. A hunting outfitter from Minnesota named Carl Brewster. "I've got a corporate group," Brewster said. 12 executives want a premium hunting experience. 4 days, full service. I'm looking for properties. Yours came highly recommended." "I don't do guided hunts," Tom said. "I provide the guides. You provide the land and lodging. I'm offering $3,000 for the 4 days." Tom nearly dropped the phone. $3,000? These guys have money. They want privacy and good deer. You have both. Tom said yes. The corporate hunt happened in November. Tom barely recognized his own property. Brewster brought in caterers, professional guides, fancy equipment. The executives drove Lexuses and Cadillacs. But they were respectful. They followed the rules. They shot 3 nice bucks and went home happy. Brewster paid in cash, $3,000. Tom fixed the tractor. That winter, more calls came. Brewster had talked. Other outfitters wanted to book Tom's property for premium hunts. Tom raised his rates. $60 per day for regular hunters. Negotiated rates for guided groups. Added a clause about professional filming for hunting shows. By 2000, the hunting and fishing business brought in $22,000. It was more than the corn made that year. Tom sat with his accountant in January 2001, looking at the numbers. "You made more from recreation than farming," the accountant said. "That can't be right."
It is. Corn, soybeans, cattle combined brought $19,000 in profit. The hunting operation brought $22,000. Tom drove home in a daze. Somewhere along the way, without really noticing, the side business had become the main business. The land was finally paying for itself. Not the way his father had done it, not the way he'd planned, but it was working. In 2003, Tom turned 62. His daughter Jenny worked as a farm consultant in Peoria. His son Mark taught high school in Naperville. Neither wanted to take over the farm. Tom understood. The farming life had nearly broken him. Why would he wish that on his kids? That fall, a developer approached him, wanted to buy the land for a subdivision, offered $400,000. Tom thought about it for exactly one evening. Then he called the developer back. "No, thank you." "That's a good offer, Mr. Walker." "I'm sure it is, but I'm not selling."
Because somewhere in the last 20 years, Tom had figured something out. The land didn't have to be just one thing. It didn't have to be only a corn farm or only a hunting preserve. It could be both. It could be whatever it needed to be to survive. 2004 arrived warm and early. Spring came in March instead of April. Tom stood in his south field one morning in May, watching the sunrise. The corn was already 6 inches tall. The creek ran clear and full. Deer grazed near the tree line. He'd started the hunting business with a newspaper ad and desperation. 20 years later, it had saved everything his family had built over 3 generations. The bank letter from 1984 was still in his desk drawer. He kept it as a reminder of how close he'd come, of what a small idea could become when you were desperate enough to try. He wasn't rich. The farm still demanded everything he had. But it was his. And it would be here after he was gone, one way or another. A truck pulled up the driveway. Danny Martinez, not a kid anymore, but a man of 24. "Morning, Tom. Ready to check the stands?" "Let's go." They climbed into the Ford pickup, 30 years old now and still running. Tom drove down the gravel road, past fields that had nearly destroyed him and eventually saved him. The morning sun climbed higher. The land stretched out green and living. It was enough.